Clarke is a gorgeous girl. Clarke isn't even light skinned, okay? She's brown skinned. I think her and I might be the same complexion.
Ah, shit. Get your tea and your popcorn because we have hit yet another psychological jackpot. Has anyone noticed that ever since the Exoticals became popular, suddenly all of the prominent dark skinned colorism creators are no longer dark skinned? First, Paris Milan was no longer dark skinned. She's coming out Beyonce's color. Then she tried to convince us Exoticals that she's light skinned. And now, here we have Queen Chioma, who is trying to pretend that she looks like Clarke from Love Island. She's literally trying to pretend like she's the exact same skin tone as Clarke. So I find it interesting how people accuse the Exoticals. They accuse us of cosplaying as light skinned. They're accusing us of not being mixed. They accuse us of being bleachers. But here you have a video of a dark-skinned, black, unambiguous Nigerian woman constantly using the brightest lighting ever, and she has body dysmorphia that's so bad to the point where she genuinely believes that she is the same complexion as someone who benefits from colorism. And then notice how she says, oh, well, Clarke is not even light-skinned. She's brown.
Clarke isn't even light skinned, okay? She's brown skinned. I think her and I might be the same complexion.
She's the same color as me. See, this is exactly why I'm glad that us Exoticals had an actual vote on what complexions we consider to be light-skinned, and it's literally based on foundation shades, because one thing that unambiguous women try to do is they try to use the term brown-skinned as a catch-all phrase. Like, oh, well, she's not light, she's brown. I pulled up a picture of Clarke next to her non-black castmates on Love Island. So if Clarke is brown-skinned, then, like I said, everybody's brown-skinned then. Andrina's brown, Huda is brown. Anyone who is not white passing is brown then. So it's hilarious how they're constantly trying to move the skin tone goalpost, but what they're really doing is, number one, Queen Chioma clearly doesn't want to represent the dark-skinned black community. She doesn't want to represent the dark-skinned black community anymore because their talking points are not good in comparison to the Exotical talking points. So now here she is saying that she is the same color as Clarke. So do you think that Queen Chioma and Clarke, that they have the same types of privilege? Do you think they're perceived the same way? And by the way, I pulled up a picture of Clarke because what they'll do is they try to wait until you become really tan as a light-skinned person. How many of you guys are light-skinned and you have a dark-skinned person like Queen Chioma trying to track how tan you become? And then they'll take a photo of you at your darkest. These Love Island castmates are literally in the middle of Fiji filming for 16 hours a day? So they're in the sun 16 hours, and Clarke is still light-skinned after being out in the sun for that long. And what women with inferiority complexes will do is they will take a photo of you at your darkest when you have a tan or something. Then they try to approximate you to them. They try to pretend like, oh, we're the exact same color. And it's like, ma'am, you do not have light-skin privilege according to your own talking points. Your entire YouTube channel is based on the perspective of a dark-skinned black woman. That's why people are asking, that's why people are asking Queen Chioma, hey, what do you think? Do you think he's colors? They wouldn't ask an actual light-skinned woman like Clarke whether or not they think Taylor is colors. No, they only ask that question to actual dark-skinned women who experience colorism. So I find it interesting how on the one hand, you had Queen Chioma clout chasing for subscribers by making videos talking about how she dated a colorist and, she's experienced colorism herself. She's been a victim of colorism, but then she says she's the same color as Clarke. If you're the same color as Clarke, then you're not a victim of colorism, right? According to you guys' own definition of the word colorism. Colorism, doesn't that mean it's discrimination against those of a darker tone? So if you're Clarke's skin tone, is Clarke dark skinned now? Is this the new representation? So according to Queen Chioma, Clarke and this phenotype is now the representation for brown-skinned, unambiguous, monoracial, black Nigerian women. And by the way, throughout this video, I'm going to continue pulling up pictures of Queen Chioma next to Clarke. So I pulled up an image of Clarke in the dark at night, and I pulled up a picture of Queen Chioma in bright sunlight. And tell me, maybe it's the different lighting that makes Queen Chioma and Clarke appear the same skin color? I mean, what do you guys think? Because I feel like a lot of women who are not light-skinned, they'll try to use like maybe their lightest photo from the dead of winter when they haven't been in the sun for 6 months. Then they compare it to a light-skinned person at their absolute darkest when they've been in the sun for 16 hours. And they'll be like, see, we're the same color. And it's interesting because it's like, okay, when it comes to the colorism conversation, they don't like when mixed or light-skinned women speak for dark-skinned, unambiguous women. So why is there an unambiguous black Nigerian woman speaking on behalf of a light-skinned woman? I also pulled up a photo of all the castmates sitting together. So on the bottom row, you've got Clarke sitting next to a whole bunch of non-black women. She's next to Iris, Andrina, Jaden, and Huda. Look at their skin tones all kind of blending together. Look at their legs. Look at their arms. Do you see how Clarke's skin tone, it literally just fades into the background with the rest of the girls who have a similar complexion? Do you think that Queen Chioma has had the experience of her skin complexion blending in and being adjacent to non-black women?
A lot of men have these unspoken preferences that aren't about skin shade, but about features or body type or overall aesthetic, or again, like he said, how someone makes him feel. And when those preferences lean Eurocentric or exotic, people often conflate that with colorism because the two can definitely overlap.
Wait a minute. So first she starts off by downplaying Clarke's exoticism by saying, oh, well, she's not even light-skinned. She's brown. She's the same as me. But then seconds later, she says, oh, sometimes men have preferences that lean more exotic. But if Clarke looks exactly like Queen Chioma, how is she more exotic? She's not, right? She's unambiguous. She's a Nigerian brown-skinned woman. So what happened to that? Do you see how they talk in circles? Do you see how they're constantly looking to speak on behalf of light-skinned women and light-skinned women's relationships? And also notice how it's always male-centered. It always goes back to, what does this black man prefer? And by the way, if you guys didn't know, Queen Chioma does date black men. She does have a black boyfriend. So it makes sense that Queen Chioma, who dates black men, would feel threatened. Or like there's a sense of competition with women of Clarke's phenotype.
Colorism, like I've talked about, is a very, very real issue. It shapes dating pools, it shapes entertainment, it shapes casting, beauty standards, all of that. I've talked about all of that. Karma has already basically handled the situation, if you really think about it. Olandria and Nick are the real winners. Forget the villa, forget the title, forget the money. Look at the numbers. I saw a TikTok that literally proves it. It was a clip of Nick and Olandria that was viewed over 1 million times, while most of the other couples' videos did a few 100,000, but definitely under 500,000 when I saw it. It may have changed by now. And Taylor and Clarke's did the least. And
so notice how she says the way she knows that karma happened is because Clarke and Taylor got less views. So that's her definition of good and bad karma. This is why I say it's never about social justice. It's always about social status. Notice how she's using TikTok numbers and how many views you get as a form of karma. So she's saying, the dark-skinned black woman won because she got the most views. And it's like, okay, if getting views makes you win, then why is it that we have content creators with hundreds of thousands of subscribers still complaining about the isms? And still complaining and saying, oh, I don't have pretty privilege and that sucks. Look at Stefko. She just made a follow-up video talking about how her life still sucks and how she tried to improve her pretty privilege and still failed. So clearly it's not really about the views. It's about them attempting to use views as a form of karma against somebody lighter skin. And it's like, do you see how they're using their measure of success as, did you beat the light-skinned woman? Did you beat the non-black person? Notice how she named specifically Amaya and Clarke. So this is why I say for women with inferiority complexes, we are the standard of dating, we are the standard of living, and we are the standard of success, because she's saying, oh, you succeeded if you got more views than a light-skinned woman. You succeeded if you got more fame and popularity than a light-skinned woman. It's bad karma on Clarke because she's not as famous as Olandria. That's what she's saying. She's saying that, Clarke lost because she doesn't have as much fame. Clarke didn't even give a fuck about the fame. You didn't see Clarke doing anything for attention. She didn't yell at anybody because she doesn't have to. She already has the beauty to carry her. She kind of feels like, I'm going to get followers either way. So she doesn't have to perform. But I've noticed women with inferiority complexes, they constantly feel the need to overperform in order to compensate for their lack of social status and for their lack of beauty, according to their own talking points. So that's why she's trying to measure on views. She's like, okay, I can't measure based on beauty. I can't measure based on media representation. So let me try to measure these women against each other based on views. Olandria won because she got more TikTok views. And it's like, ma'am, does the world revolve around TikTok views or what? So do you see what they're chasing here? She literally just revealed that that's really what she thinks is the prize. So not the money. She literally said, The real prize is essentially TikTok views.
People are gravitating towards them because they're authentic, they're likable, and their chemistry feels real, whether they end up together or not. And when you've got the audience on your side, the opportunities definitely have followed. Nick and Olandria have already been tapped in by brands left and right. And I saw they worked with Nick's makeup, and their campaign was basically something manifested by the fans, and they are really working with them. They're booked, they're visible, and they're aligning themselves with the type of companies that keep reality TV personalities and reality TV stars relevant long after the shows that they're on end. That's the kind of momentum most Love Island contestants probably dream about. Meanwhile, let's check in on Taylor and Clarke. I still think they're doing very good. I saw their campaign with Arby's, and it's no shade, but even Olandria has recently signed with Digital Brand Architects, which is a huge deal. And even the official winners, Brian and Amaya, crickets. Okay, not necessarily crickets, but like I haven't seen as much as them like I have Nick and Olandria and some of the others.
And the reason she hasn't seen those people as much as Nick and Olandria is because her timelines and algorithms are Black centered. They're monocultural. So just like how I said, Olandria is the most popular with Black women. She is actually not the most popular castmate out of everyone. And I showed you guys the numbers already on that. So she's making it like, oh, Olandria is just so much better than the rest of them, but that's actually not true. She's speaking based on the cultural biases of her algorithm. She only follows Black content or Black content creators and dark-skinned Black women, even though she's pretending like she's not a dark-skinned Black woman. But that's all she follows. So, of course, to her perception, it's all about Nick Olandria. On my timelines, I see hella content about Huda. I see a lot of content about Amaya. I see a lot of content about Iris, but that's because I'm coming from a multicultural, multiracial Black background as opposed to a monocultural Black background. So isn't it interesting how Chioma's perception is actually being shaped by her ethnic background and she doesn't even realize it?
I did think that Amaya and Brian looked good when they did the opening pitch for the Red Sox game, but I feel like their buzz died down almost as soon as the season ended. Maybe it's just me. And that's the lesson. You can play games in the villa, but the audience decides who shines after the show.
So if the audience always decides who succeeds, then why are dark-skinned Black women not prospering in the media right now? Why is Normani flopping and doing bad karaoke performances offbeat with Fifth Harmony right now? Why is she not being supported? So do you see that talking point and how fragile it actually is? I also want to talk about light skin fishing or dark skinned women who try to look as light as possible and then they want to approximate themselves to light skinned women. This is also why I'm glad that we actually voted on Fenty shades on this channel, because anytime I see an unambiguous woman try to say something like, oh, this girl is not even light skinned, all you have to do is ask them, what color is light skin? Ask them and then watch them go silent. And I put up the paper bag test just to be a troll earlier. And it was actually to show that Clarke, not only is she light-skinned, but in a lot of her pictures, she's actually giving beige. It's giving yellow. It's giving golden in a lot of her photos. Meanwhile, on Queen Chioma's Instagram and on her YouTube, I had to go, in order to find photos and images of her in natural lighting, I had to go 10 years back on her YouTube channel. That is how obsessed Queen Chioma is with using the brightest lighting possible. You see that she never shows her natural hair, and it's so funny because they tried to make fun of Exoticals saying, oh, well, so-and-so, she has a relaxer. You know, they try to come for Exoticals who have relaxers, or they try to call out lighter-skinned women who wear wigs. Meanwhile, one of the main representatives of dark-skinned Black women, Queen Chioma, I had to go all the way back 10 years just to find photos of her in more natural lighting. Because she can't even record a video without 3 softbox lights. You know, she can't take a photo without it being golden hour. She can't take a photo in the shade. She can't take photos at night. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is what I mean when I say it's an inferiority complex. Because they can't take photos when they're tan. They can't take photos in the shade. They can't take photos at night. And meanwhile, you have Clarke, who's very unbothered. She's never said anything negative about anyone. She takes her photos randomly without flash, without the flash on. And anybody who's light-skinned knows this. A lot of times we don't even take photos with flash. We're not as obsessed with lighting as what a lot of women with inferiority complexes are. Because a lot of other women, they're scared that their features will look bad if the lighting is dim. We don't have that insecurity. Okay? I've never been scared that, oh my God, you can't see my features, and oh my God. the lighting is so bad, it's going to make me look ugly. Women who are comfortable in their skin complexions or women who are comfortable with their facial features, we're not even thinking about that when we take photos. But what do you ladies think? Is Queen Chioma the same skin tone as Clarke? Is Queen Chioma light skinned or is Clarke dark skinned? And since Clarke is very similar to people like Andrina and all those other girls, are those girls also dark skinned as well? Are they all the same color as Queen Chioma? What do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.